Don't take anything I say as men are better than women or that one cheats more than the other. I did enough research online, but also this isn't meant to be some deep academic breakdown. It's a conversation, and this video is not going to be an essay. 20% of men and 13% of women reported having intimate relationship with someone other than their spouse while married, according to the General Social Survey in the US. Both for men and women, main reasons for cheating seemed to most often be because of impulsivity, lust, insecurity, seeking validation, feeling unappreciated, or feeling like there is more to life. There is no exact number, but it's possible to roughly estimate there are 3.2 billion married people in the world, but there are also millions of people who are cheating, at least 500,000 encounters per day. And the person they're cheating with sometimes has absolutely no idea he or she even has a spouse. Fortunately, I don't personally know cases like this, but it's interesting to see how people who couldn't even walk away from each other for a single second, who would hold hands and sing songs together, one day just lose that feeling, and it's usually one partner that loses at first, so they start a divorce process, and a divorce is hard, not just legally but emotionally. People around you start giving their opinions, parents, friends, even coworkers might eventually poke their nose into your business. And somewhere in that process, the love they once had turns into hate so deep that they hire lawyers just to take away anything they can from each other. I don't know how it works in the US, but in my country when couples split at their worst, they don't just divide money or property, sometimes they literally split objects in half. My mom personally knew a couple who physically split a TV in two, and you're probably wondering why, because a split object is useless, but the hate gets so deep that people would rather destroy everything and walk away with nothing than live with the thought that the person they're divorcing still has anything at all, even something as simple as a piece of furniture. My dad's friend who worked as a lawyer told me horror stories of what he's seen after having worked for almost 8 years for couples that want divorce. Told me that he's going to stay single forever or have relationships with women, but only intimate to satisfy the basic needs, because marrying a woman if you live in a first world country, it's basically to shoot yourself in the foot. You might think I'm exaggerating, but I don't. I was born in Eastern Europe, but recently moved to Germany, and a few months in, I met a guy. I don't know his exact age, but he was definitely at least 10 years older than me. He had also moved there many years prior and met a girl. They loved each other at first sight, but after a couple of years of living what you'd call happily ever after, she almost took everything from him. He gave her a child, by the way, and now for the rest of that child's teenage years, he'll have to pay child support. I don't know exactly how much, he didn't tell me, but since we're talking about Germany, if he earns 2,000 euros a month, just one child could cost him around 25 to 30% of his income. But I'm not done yet. That same guy then met another woman who he married very recently, and that woman already had 2 children from a previous marriage. And then he gave her another child, so now this guy has to take care of 4 children. And if he divorces her, she will literally annihilate his life. Even though the usual retirement age in Germany is around 67, this guy will have to work his entire life. Like if he lives to 80, that's exactly how long he'll be working. I don't know how much he makes, but let's assume he earns 2,500 euros after tax. I calculated that you have to pay 1,050 in child support, and 1,450 is what you have left for rent, utilities, phone, food, transport, healthcare, plus some kind of emergency spending. In my country, if you have enough money to hire a good lawyer and can prove that you lived with another person for at least 2 years, even if an object was purchased in the other person's name, with their credit card or something like that, you can still take half of what they own, even if you didn't spend a single dime on it. But it only works if you are married. If you're boyfriend and girlfriend, you can still take something from your partner, but it's usually much more difficult, and you have to have lived with each other, in that case, for at least 5 or more years. Or like I've said, you could use an angle grinder to literally split whatever you want in two. By the way, the reason why some women might want to get a good lawyer when divorcing in second world countries is if the lawyer can prove somehow, usually by making up some evidence, or how it usually is, just bribe the right person, that your spouse physically abused you, which is an option many women in my country attempt, because if you succeed, you can make it so that not only will your husband never interact with his children, but you can also make him pay you alimony very easily, even if you earn enough money. Most of the time, Eastern Europe and Central Asia have deeply ineffective legal frameworks around domestic violence cases, which makes the system easier to manipulate in either direction. Of course, there are probably some men who attempted this, but from what I've seen in all my life, it's fair to say that it's less than 1%. In every country, there is at least some legislation that protects women, because statistically statistically there are more at risk of violence in marriages. Most pro-Western countries have dedicated programs and laws specifically for this. Even Eastern European countries have some form of protection in place. The exception is Russia, because in 2017 Putin actually signed a law that decriminalized domestic violence, meaning if your spouse beats you and it doesn't send you to the hospital, it's not even a criminal offense, it's treated like a minor administrative violation. And if it only happens once a year, it's completely unpunishable under criminal law, so you won't even get a fine. But when it comes to men, there seems to be almost no legal recognition of them being at risk of domestic violence. I've seen stories on television of how primarily young men, many under 25, had their drinks spiked and were then taken advantage of while unconscious. It happens rarely, but even if we talk about ordinary domestic violence, if you as a man go to the police and tell them that your wife is emotionally or even physically abusing you, no one will do anything about it unless she puts you in the hospital, which is also incredibly rare. But in the US, if a woman you have never even met accuses you of so much as laying a finger on her, especially if you are a public figure, your reputation, which as a man is essentially everything you have, will be destroyed. Even if it's proven that you did absolutely nothing, like in Brian Banks' case, this guy was accused by his female classmate of kidnapping and then doing something to her and had to spend over 5 years in prison. He was exonerated, but only because that girl was recorded admitting that she had lied. Otherwise, this guy could have spent many more years in prison. And eventually, when he would have been released, he probably wouldn't even have been able to rent a house or get the most basic job imaginable. And by the way, after that girl confessed that she lied, absolutely nothing happened to her. She wasn't jailed, she didn't receive any fines. Nothing. So as we see anywhere, the laws work against men when it comes to divorce. So even though I'm just 20, I've made up my mind that no matter what woman I meet, unless she's an Italian MILF millionaire, it's better not to marry. Because if that chick you marry just one day decides that she doesn't love you anymore because you forgot her birthday, or about your honeymoon even though you've been married for a year, you as a man are gonna lose. Unless you're ready to go for milk and change your location drastically. Marriage overall is overrated. There is no actual benefit. You don't need it to actually love someone. If there is a person that you love, I think it's more than enough to just live together and enjoy your life. Because even if you do stop loving each other one day, you can just walk away from each other, so neither of you will be tempted to try and take away property. You just leave and go on with your life. Maybe there was a reason to marry in 1960s for status and tax breaks, but in contemporary times, for us young people, I think it's pointless. And is there actually anything to be afraid of losing? To cut the long story short, yes, I'm answering that straight up yes. But most Gen Zers don't have any property, cars, or nice jobs. Most work minimum wage jobs that don't allow to save up enough money to improve your situation. And after working an 8 or even 12-hour shift, you go back to your shitty apartment on the outskirts of city. There is no natural beauty in most cities, there aren't even trees. It's insane how in first world countries, just rent for the worst apartment imaginable will be at least 800 euros. Just bare raw walls and no furniture. But even if you can't afford anything and you still get married and that person, usually a woman, divorces you, the government will still make you pay something. You might think that you have nothing. You're wrong. There is always something. They can even legally force you to find a second job if you didn't know that. So you will literally be working 24/7. So tell me, what would be better, to simply live with the person that you love with no legal binding and if something happens you just walk away, or to sign a contract that will destroy your already miserable life? And if you think that you are the exception, that it can't be that every person is evil, you are right. But you can never know, and statistics show that. Depending on the country, the rate of divorce is 40 to 50% because modern life, despite whatever our governments say, in Western countries is incredibly difficult. Of course we earn more money than people that live in Afghanistan, but don't forget that expenses here are also much higher. Like if you earn $1,000 per month in Thailand, you can live like a literal god. You can afford incredibly good housing, good healthcare, and great food, while in the US, $1,000 a month gets you nothing. $1,000 a month in the US, it's not even the bottom of the barrel. It's just nothing. Obviously, you gotta figure out this life on your own, but isn't it truly enough to just love someone and take care of them without the government poking their nose into your business? But at the end of this video, I'd still like to offer some advice. From my observations, no matter if you're a broke student or an Italian GigaChad millionaire, if you eventually find the right person, there is simply not enough benefit nowadays to get married. Just live with them and enjoy every moment you can together. And if you've been together for decades, you might as well just get married. If you've been able to stay together, no matter what, both in hardship and happiness, I think in that situation, it is worth getting married. Because only after such a long period can you know who that person actually is. It sometimes takes decades to find out. But what if he or she still insists on marriage? I don't know, man. Me personally, I wouldn't sign it. But on the other hand, I've never been in that kind of situation. For some people, it's very important to get married to get that acceptance from the society. It's a very difficult topic. While people like me see marriage as something bad, others, mostly right-wing politicians, defend it with their life. Because the more people get married, the more children there will be, and therefore there will be more people to work and pay taxes. Which is everything all of our governments want, no matter where you live. That's all they care about. Nowadays, it's not even about whether it's beneficial. The right question is it safe to get married? So that the person you love doesn't just one day decide to destroy your life. Everyone decides for themselves, but as for me, I've made my decision many years ago. Well, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with women. Maybe I will meet some girl that will change my mind, so to speak, but I think it's just not worth it. So I wish you all the best. Thanks for watching this video. Our conversation is not over. I'll talk to you very soon, and if you have any experiences or stories from your friends about the topic of today's video, you can share it in the comments. And I'll see you soon. I'll post the best comment at the beginning of the next video. Goodbye.